Do not attempt to adjust your set. This is a Streaming Freedom Video Bulletin. It cannot be stopped, and it is the only free voice left on the net.
Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. So in this Skyrim mod video for PS4, I wanted to cover something that I've been seeing a lot lately in the comments section that I would think would be very obvious, with people asking me when I am a PlayStation 4 player playing on a PlayStation 4 console if these mods are available on PlayStation. And by these mods I mean mods like Sophia, which are external assets. For those new to modding Skyrim, an external asset is any type of mod that is not a part of the base game. So a mod like Sophia, for example, who is a custom-built character. She has a custom-built body and also completely new voiced dialogue by an actress. Also, the lightsabers that I've previously showcased, obviously those would be custom assets and so on. So the reason that I wanted to go over this video is because some people are unaware. Also, one numbnut decided to accuse me of, scamming my viewers and creating fake content. Oh, and the fact that Sophia isn't actually in my game. Apparently, who we were all just looking at, somehow I faked that. In any case, since I do not fake my content, and I do not scam my viewers, before you get any further into this video, I do want to make it perfectly clear, as I've stated before on help videos, that I'm not an expert on this game. You shouldn't take anything that I say as 100% fact. I try to be as factual as possible with you, but I do make mistakes. Now, to my knowledge, external asset mods first started really getting a foothold here and remaining up about 8 months back. So last year, it was August 23rd.
Imagine if I was
last
Dragonborn. The term shouting would take on an entirely new meaning.
Sophia, would you please stop that? It was August 23rd of last year. That's at least when I became aware of them. It could have been before that, but it was... I would check mods fairly regularly and noticed at that time that external assets were being uploaded. And it was Kigo Ports at that time, Kigo Ports PSN, that was doing the uploading. However, he was not the first to actually get external asset mods on PlayStation. Other authors had done that before, were able to trick the system into allowing the external assets. But the thing was, back then, those mods were quickly removed by Bethesda because it violated the agreed upon TOS, or Terms of Service, between Bethesda and Sony that allowed modding on PlayStation. But some of those early notable external asset mods would include skeleton mods, not similar to what we have now. At the time that I checked them, I couldn't tell if they worked or not. They didn't seem to. As well as a body physics mod for female characters that would make the bodies realistically move, if you get my drift. That did not work either, no matter where you placed it in the load order. And things of that nature. It seemed like external asset mods only did not work, but were quickly removed by Bethesda at that time. Then Kigo Ports uploaded, it was either, I'd like to say, Reporting to the Masses, that was one of the very first ones, or it was Oblivion Interactions icons. That was the one that I made the video on, was the Oblivion Interaction icon, because I used it to show new players exactly what an external asset was. But Reforging to the Masses, I'd say, would be even more important for the fact that they were completely new weapon models that were not a part of the base game, but they were wrapped in a vanilla texture, because back then they still could not port custom textures into the game, so he had to wrap the new models in vanilla textures. They're only right now starting to figure out how to actually get custom textures in game. That's why you can see that we have mods like the CBBE armor that Sophia is wearing, and also like those wallpapers that Oracle made for, well, not made, but ported, excuse me, to the main menu. Things like that is only now becoming more possible as they figure stuff out. But in any case, Kigo, I'd say, was really the one that was instrumental in opening the door to the mod staying, because I believe his mods was removed at that time, and Bethesda reviewed them and then put them back up. And oddly enough, at the time, for the Reforging to the Masses, they said there were no external assets in there, when clearly there was. Even our top mod authors like Cyan49 pointed out the fact that's exactly what those were. it really doesn't matter. What it comes down to is the fact that it was a breakthrough for PlayStation because suddenly Bethesda was
The
allowing
people of Skyrim
external
have
asset
very dirty
mods.
minds.
Would you excuse me for
To
a
say the
moment?
most innocent of things. Time to move, I guess.
You know, for the fact that Sophia supposedly isn't there, she certainly does that enough. Interrupting me when I'm trying to talk to you guys. In any case, it was a breakthrough for Skyrim modding on PlayStation when it came to external assets that they were being allowed to remain up. And then I'd say the floodgates were really opened. A lot of them were ports by mod author Kiko ports that started really uploading things left and right. Some functioning better than others at the time, as he and other authors would figure out how they worked. Because the thing about external assets is there are some, I'd say, restrictions or caveats to them being here. They don't always function correctly. Now, I mean, that's mods in general, not just external assets, but it can definitely be with them in some of the functionality of them. For example, the fact that I have completely corrupted saves due to one of them, and it must remain in my load order. But as far as the restrictions as what's possible with them, if a mod requires the SKSE, which is the Skyrim script extender, in order to function, that mod cannot be ported to PlayStation. It will not work because we do not have access to the SKSE. But if a mod only used it to add functionality but can function without it, that mod then, in theory, can be ported. Now, there can still be other, I'm not an expert on it, I'm not a mod author, I'm a modder, but not a mod author, so I cannot, say what all they can and can't do. But if I'm understanding it correctly, then if the mod is not reliant on the SKSE and only, right there I thought it crashed, not reliant on it and only uses it to extend functionality, then it might still be possible to port over here. Perfect example of that, if I am understanding it correctly from what I've read in comments and learned about Sophia, is Sophia, who to this day is, in my opinion, the best functioning port that PlayStation has. She is extremely faithful recreation of the original vision that was respected and not altered in some unnecessary way. Her voice lines and custom body are completely there, no issue with that. And I do believe the original one, you could teach her spells or something, and now that functionality is not with this version of Sophia, because that was an SKSE functionality. Again, if I'm understanding correctly, I could be wrong about that. I walked as slow as I could, and I still took a wrong turn to where I was supposed to go and deal with it. In any case, so if it relied on the SKSE, it's not possible. If not, it could be possible. Then there were things like the custom textures, as you'll recall I said earlier on. Why doesn't everything just happen all at once? A little late loading in your textures there, Draco. Any case, you'll recall I said earlier on that if it was a texture at the time, it was possible. They're just now starting to figure that out. Now, I don't know if Aura was the first to figure that out. I still say one of the very first, in the fact that I remember some people had tried to upload custom wallpapers to PlayStation before that, couldn't get them to work, and then the ones uploaded by mod author Aura Cool J that reports that he did, those functioned. So see, they are learning new ways to get these uploaded to our system all the time. However, at least to my understanding, it has still never been outright said by either Bethesda or Sony that external asset modding is now possible and allowed on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. We do know with the PS5, external assets was allowed and was actually promoted for the game Baldur's Gate 3, and I believe that game, we have a huge part to thank for it, for the fact that maybe Sony then lightened up on the TOS and external assets started showing up. But that's just my opinion, that's not official information. But we know that it's not been official because the mod authors, to get the external assets here, still have to trick it into uploading here. They have to use loopholes and workarounds to get the external assets uploaded because the creation kit normally would not allow them to. But when I did mention that it was my opinion that they are being allowed, my friend Arl made a very good point in a comment that he made to me, which was one of the external asset mods Bethesda removed them, but the reason they removed it is because at the time it was ported without permissions. Once permissions were secured for the mod, Bethesda allowed it back up, and it contained external assets. So why would they do that? You might want to get that looked at. Why would they do that if it was no longer being allowed? So it is for that reason that, because I don't believe it's a violation of the TOS and that these are legitimately being allowed, that I choose to showcase external asset mods along with the other mods for you and try to help you to understand and find mods, as well as warn you when issues occur with them, just like any other mod. So I hope that this information, again, I'm trying to be accurate, but I don't know everything is, don't take it all as fact, but I hope that it's helpful to you to understand that yes, external assets are allowed on PS4 and PS5. Everything you see on this channel is on Skyrim Special Edition PS4 Slim. I do not fake content. I do not disrespect my viewers' time like that. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Take care.
This has been a Streaming Freedom Video Bulletin. Peace out.